Hey there, Eurus here, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the amazing humans from the community world about their life journeys and learn from each other. And today we have a conversation with Corina Gheona, a global community expert, a dreamer, an art creator, and a mother of five dragons who knows how to make some noise and moves. So, hello, Corina.
Hi, nice intro.
Tell me, out of the five dragons, how did you tame the first one?
Uh, because it was about the first one in reality. So it all started with one, and then the others happened. And not to keep the mystery, it's not another Game of Thrones here and dragons. We talk about dogs. So, and quite big dogs. So, huskies and stray dogs. And it started with the first one. And I think it was, in a way, a sign for me that it was too much travel in my professional life. So I wanted to be a bit more stable with a dog with that kind of routine. And it happened just randomly in the morning that, hey, if with my partner back then, that, hey, if you really still want the dog that you really wanted to have, you can have it. So it was just this kind of start. In just a few hours, we had a dog, and it was a dragon. I was not able the next day, but like it was not that much responsibility with the decision. I would say, because the next day it was a working day, so I was like, clearly I work from home because it's too little. It's too like this can't exist just by itself. So it started by taming me in a way. The thing is that it also started in January 2020.
Mhm.
So if you remember, in March, a huge pandemic started. So in a way, I was ready for that stability, for staying at home, for having a routine, and being a bit more in a habit around the house, around the block. So this is how it started with the first dog and with the discipline of a first dog. But then it went wild, and it was about a few more.
If you just four more, yeah, it's like
Yeah, yeah.
it's fun because sometimes I talk to people who have dogs or cats, and they sometimes like they are preventing me from traveling, and you have like a opposite story. So you wanted to be more stable, and like, oh, okay, I will have a dog, but it feels like you really wanted like really good stability that you had four more. So what happened next? What happened after the first?
Ah,
How for
yeah.
others happened?
Um, Pandemic started, and with the pandemic and being isolated, and in Romania we were isolated quite well for good months, so the restrictions were quite high, and it didn't make much sense to imagine life like it's just staying in Bucharest in a crowded big city uh, for no purpose other than having a good life, having a good job, doing normal things. So that's when it started to be a bit more about living outside the city and to consider moving in a village. And with that, and the idea of why keep a dog in an apartment. So it was a good motivation to consider moving in a village. My background before being a professional, I was more into NGOs, foundations, and causes, things with a mission,
Hmm.
fighting against the system on some things, especially in education, and especially in making education more community oriented, and people to learn in communities, to grow in communities, to have common values that they share, and a purpose. So, with my friends and colleagues from this past life, to say, they were also started to consider a village and to move the type of projects and initiatives that we had in Bucharest to move further in a village. So that's when I joined a group that was also recently formed of friends of mine now to consider moving in a village and to build our own village. And that was also very interesting because it was the pandemic, but we were having calls once in 2 weeks to talk about how we imagine life in a co-designed village. And I had a lot of energy and I had a lot of clarity, I would say, in what I want, how I expect. So I was very energized to be part of this group and this mission. Then in time, we realized that we have different pace. So for me, it was like I really want to be in a village quite soon. And for others, it was more about let's imagine it the way it should be for the long term, like to imagine for 20 years from now. But like I I want it now, like I want in a year to move. So that's when we started to split in a way. So we visited some pieces of land, some villages. So we started to do that. But I also was very fair with them that, hey, I would also do my part in searching for a space just to enjoy that life now that it's
Yeah.
still a pandemic and I want for myself, for my dog, for how I envisioned life. And I moved in a village. And then it was the moment of saying, oh, but my dog now has a routine every day. It's a social activity with other dogs. So in a village, it will be a bit isolated. So it needs friends. In reality, the dog was not into having friends. So she's still asking herself, I'm more of a big city girl, a big city husky, not necessarily a village husky. Why do I have this other four with me? But that's life now. So the life with the other dogs. Initially, there were two more dogs, so in total three dogs. But then a bit of love happened between two of them, and we got to have a few more. So to end with five, and five to be the final number, no more, no less.
Are you sure that 5 is the final
Yes.
number?
Yes. Like because nowadays also, I for me it was the first dog ever, so I had no idea about how it is with dogs and all that. But now with five, being just there in their yard, it's the dominance for them. Like it's their space, no other dog can come. They are big, so it will be very hard for any other dog, which is a good thing, I would say, because I think if they would be just very open, any other dog to come, any other pet to come, that might put me in the position of, oh, let's bring this one too. Oh, let's bring this one too. So it's a good attitude that they have, and it's clear we are the five, and there is no space for any other.
Sounds like they're protecting you from heaven more and more and more.
So it's heavy, and to be honest, so my idea of if in this life there is a moment to feel super rich in any way, like it's going to be to support and help as many animals as possible. So, but I also know, unfortunately, there are many people who and I'm very glad that they exist, but I'm also very aware that it's very hard what they do. So when they start to help, and when they start to help by taking too much from their mechanism of creating value, creating economical value for themselves, they get somewhere, if it's not that successful, to sacrifice a bit too much. So I'm very aware that it, like, once I will consider a bit more. So now I'm just donating to a few causes, and I'm doing that part. But when you start and you are really willing to do more, you really need to think it through to make it sustainable, because it will get to see many causes that they get to that point that they no longer have enough food for their dogs, or they don't have money for the medicine for their dog. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be healthy for the human who decides to help, and for the animals that are there to have a good support. But that's my vision of richness.
Out of the 5, who is the naughtiest one and why?
they're different. And this idea that you have a favorite, it's true. Then the idea that you love all of them, it's also true. What I find fascinating, and I don't have kids, so my only reference is with dogs, is although you behave with them in a similar way, they have access to the same resources. They are so different, each of them with its own personality, like so different. uh, there are different levels of naughtiness. Like one is stubborn socially, like not allowing you to pay too much attention to the others. So and is the first one. So Masha, the first one, who is like, no, don't pay attention to this other. Don't brush the other. Brush me only. So that level of stubbornness. Then is the very alpha one, also from a husky family, that he can be wild and he would like to escape if possible. Like he wants to be wild. Then is another, the youngest, the Loopy, who is very, she explores everything. And she's also quite fat because while she has her food, she also goes and finds something else to eat somewhere. Like she will find her own way. So in a way, these are the ones with the highlights of being stubborn or a bit more wild.
Are you a leader of a pack?
Oh, I hope so now because I learned so much that you need to be. But initially, unfortunately for me, I was, and I still have that tendency to apply the human behavior and what we expect from. If they're cute, they're lovely, they're nice. Why? Like, if they want that, let's do that. But when it's needed, it works. Like, and I try as much as possible to keep some rules in place. But then I also do a check with myself if I really want something and it's not continuing the discipline that they need, I would still do it. Like for me, the when on Christmas also and on my birthday also, my dream was I want to sleep with my dog. So I made that possible. Like, and I invite them in the house and in my bed and everywhere when I'm there. While my mother is more like, they are no longer dogs. They no longer identify as dogs if we continue to do this. Like, fine, but I also need to identify with loving them, and I like that.
They're not identifying with as a dogs now. They're more like
Yeah.
identifying with as children, and
The internet is helping us in that direction. So mine are not that much in that direction. So I feel good on that. But because I have five, I think that also matters. Like you can't just make them so much part of your human life when they are five.
So let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your
Mm.
parents. Who are they?
My parents. Oh. Uh, think is and I would say now I think it's the first international context when I talk about them. So normally it's a question that I got it years ago, but more locally in Romania. So right now in my life there is only my mother. So my father passed a year ago, a year and a
Mm.
bit. And she and I also, like, for context, my family means also two brothers. They are married, their wives, so this is my expanded family. And out of all, I always say that my mother is the bravest out of all of us and action oriented. Like, if you really need a project manager that gets things done, it's my mother. Well, she doesn't know what project management is. She only knows that if something needs to be done, it will be done. So she's that brave and action oriented. Um, it's a simple lady who had her life. And in Romania, we also went through communist times. Uh, like, life was not easy in many ways, but she managed to handle a life, have different jobs just to make money for the family, together with my father, have three kids, which was also quite brave to have and to have good kids. Um, So yeah, and now the her last years were more dedicated to take care of our father. And starting last year, in a way, she was in this process of realizing that it's hard without him, while also it was not easy with him and taking care of him only.
Yeah.
Uh, she had a chance to travel. So last year, for the first time, we took a plane and we went and visited her sons, so my brothers, and we had a very nice holiday as a family. And I was telling her, like, can you imagine? Because I'm proud of her, and like in her 70s, some of the most beautiful days of your life to still happen in your 70s. Like, I told her that this is inspiring. Like, you would never think that in your 70s you can be, or for her age, maybe now for us it's different and we are in other ways educated, but to enjoy some of the best days of your life, to see all your kids together, to be with
Yeah.
them, to see that they are good with each other and you to be with them in a different country on a beach, that's awesome in a way. So it's inspiring to think like that. And as much as she doesn't have, let's say, too much care for her health or these kind of things, I'm like, these are the things that you do. Like, the way you will experience your 70s will inspire us also to enjoy life, to have a long life, to have a good life. So yeah, this is about her. Now she's the one that spends a lot of time with my dogs, and she complains because she thinks she would want her life to be as it was previously. But then once she leaves the village for a day or two, then she calls and says, "Oh, I miss my dogs." She wants back to be with the dogs. So that also happens. My father was someone who was provoking us to be good. He was demanding uh,
Mm.
authority in a way, but through kind words. So it was not like back in the days in some countries, there are stories with people being a bit more violent. That's why I'm saying it was not the case in our family. So we were very nice and kind. But he was a good authority for us. He was not as brave as I wanted him to be, and but I also know that he was very honest, so that's why I can
Mm.
say this about him. And he's he's fine with this if he hears. He was extremely preoccupied to ensure the safety of our family. So he was extremely, like, an example. I learned that grown-ups have days off when
Mm.
I was in high school or close to, like, I was a teenager, because in my family they never took days off, like that level of responsibility. So my father started to take days off when we first got our telephone in the house,
Mm.
for him to be able to check if something is needed. Like, he was in the supply chain kind of a thing for petrol and infrastructure development for pipes,
Mm.
petrol pipes kind of a thing. So he was so responsible and aware of what's needed that he was not taking days off. So he started to take a bit of days off, and the best days for us. But now thinking with, like, being a grown up, that was not healthy for his work uh, work lifestyle, work ethics, maybe it was. We were so happy, like around Christmas, when people usually have days off and they should have. He was telling us, "Kids, how about today we go to the office?" So yeah, we go to the office. So we were going there, and it was the best time for us to play with some of those kind of different templates of papers, documents that printing or what was needed there. But in reality, it was he was there for the job, not to give us good time. So that level of responsibility. So I was little not aware that people have days off. And then I learned that, for example, in Romania, there are 21 days off, mandatory. I was like, what? Yeah. So these are my parents, in a way, just a part of who they are.
What is one thing that you do opposite to your mother and opposite to your father? What is one trait, the opposite that you've took from them?
Uh, for sure, is this possibility to travel and capacity to travel. Like it's also in my attitude. It comes with who I am now, and I'm a bit wild from this perspective. And what for them doesn't look like stability, for me it's stability. So I'm fine with this approach and being different than them.
When did you start traveling?
Mm, to travel for work and in a way quite often, quite frequently with my job in UiPath. So that was 2018, 2019. That's why for me, as I said, when the pandemic came, I was a bit tired of being everywhere. So it came in time. I know it had other consequences for many others, but for me, it brought this time of stability in a house to stay. But yeah, I would say that's when I started to travel. I don't know, maybe once in a month, once in 2 months, or
Okay.
even more frequent.
And how did you feel when first time that you went abroad? How like what was the difference between like being here, like seeing your parents and like living this uh, usual stable life and being away? How did you feel back then?
Yeah. My first trip was, I think, when I was in my 20s. It was also with a project when I was a student and in an NGO. So, but now to really work this way, I would say something. So while I was aware that I'm different than them and I will explore more of the world, I was also fine and limiting myself, but in a way that I thought it's constructive, is decent, so it's not that much of a limitation. So one limited belief, let's say, that I had was the fact that Europe is enough for me. Like if I just get around different countries in Europe, it's we have so much diversity in Europe, and there is so much to do, cultures, everything. I was fine with that. Like that was my thought. But then when I joined the UiPath, it was more about uh, the biggest part of the community is in India. And
Mm.
the first hackathon that we had to run was in India, I mean, just a few months after I joined. So, okay, I go to India. And that's when I started. So, and immediately after, I went to US. So my limited belief got dismantled just there. and and I realized that okay, there is so much more. The world is so much bigger, and I have access to it, and we can make it happen, make it possible. It's not that impossible. It's not that far. I was also having this idea that oh, I don't know, like a city break is not enough. Like you really need to be for a long time in a place. Not anymore. Like again, I get to travel somewhere for work, and if there is any chance to still have get like a day to be able to see things around and like to do it by myself outside the company to be there, I get to do that, and it's good enough as one day. Like you can get immersed in something. I'm aware that you don't get immersed in the local life and how they really enjoy life and the bad and the ugly of what's there, but you get a better understanding, and it can be good enough. Just some hours in a place can be very, very good. So yeah, that was my discovery with new places. So it's no longer just about Europe for sure.
What is one place in the world you love revisiting and why?
that I like, that I love
Yeah, I love
visiting.
coming back to over and over again.
Ah, yeah, I have one, but so it's Bangkok and Thailand, and I discovered it last year. And last year I already went twice, and this year it's already planned again.
What do you like the
uh,
most about this place?
yeah, I don't know. I no, I know, but it's not that fancy. I would say the reason. Um, I get so I was impressed with how well developed the city is, but also how simple uh, people can be. Neighborhoods can continue a simple life as well. So it gives me a good sense of peace. I find it also affordable, and it's good value, like really good value, especially when it comes to food. You get really good food, uh, clean food, safe food, full of flavor food, and it's important. Like I do like food. Um, it's a big diversity of, like, you can be who you want to be, or who you like. You can be as wild as you are, if you are, or you can be extremely peaceful. You can be a lot about the culture, about the business side. So I think one thing that impressed me a lot was I got the chance to visit a few places in India, and to be in India quite often. And given how many they are, I was always like, it's really difficult to handle a city when there are so many millions in that city. And with Bangkok, I found that they find a way to still, like, while it's crowded, you find your peace. For sure, there are many cities and many countries where people find it. For me, it's Bangkok right now. So it's a good place of peace and wilderness and everything that I want. This is how I feel.
In your 2024 collection of food and taste, Thai
Mhm.
was the first place,
Yeah.
then it was Hyderabad, then was Spanish, Cambridge, Romanian, Turkish, and Indian. Why did Romanian was only on the fifth place of your list?
I would not to ask the question like this, honestly. Like, it's good that it was still there. Like, usually people would just put things from other countries. But I wanted, and I really find it, like, the fact that it's there is the value, not that it's the fifth, because I really had this thought, and it's because my mother spends much more time with me. So Romanian food through my mother and the food that she prepares. So that's why Romanian food qualified to be. Usually you put all the exotic places where you go in such leaderboards, let's say. So I'm very happy with having Romania there, on disregarding the position where it's.
What inspires you to create?
What do I create? Like
Art, picture?
art. Mm, mm. I don't create that often, but I do. So that's also a value that I get the chance to do that. Um, I don't know. Like many years ago, too many years ago, when I was much younger, or I always thought that I would never want to be very good in one art or one direction, or to have a talent that is so cool to have a bit in each. But I was never associating myself there. Like, I was thinking of it as a desire, but once I was formulating it as a desire, then I was like, dude, but you can paint if you want to paint. I can cook if I want to cook. I can dance if I want to dance. Like, I can play a bit of table tennis, and I was good at it. I'm not no longer practicing that much. And I was like, you are really living that kind of life that you said, oh, it's so nice to be good in many, but not very good in just one. So I don't associate myself that much with uh, being creative. I think I can be very critical of others' creativity. So whenever I visit a museum or a gallery or something, then I say like, oh, but I can also do, oh, I can also do this and that. I never really go back and do that. But this year, for example, uh, I do want to be more creative. So this is my intention. Like every year for almost 10 years, I think, I set a word that defines a mindset for the year. And this year is about it's called creative expression. Yeah, creative expression, with the intention to feel a bit more free, to feel a bit more like not to care that much about mm, people's opinion. I would
Hmm.
say, like I am. Let's say this year I'm a bit more intentional to be creative. In the past, it just happens. It can happen also with the life in a village. What I feel, so it gives me this feeling that I want to do more with my hands.
Hmm.
So this idea of a craft, and not to be very good at it, but just to use my hands and to do something. Uh, it I do that. I tend to do that, and it can be cooking, it can be painting, it can be assembling Lego pieces, it can be sewing. It can be very basic things or things in the garden. Uh, while I have good internet connection and I still have all the gadgets and technology that, like, in the village, I have this tendency to be more craft oriented. So there is the space, there is the time. Creativity wise, I also go for what's easy to do. Like when I was
Hmm.
very small, I was into flowers, and that made me successful in school. But then in the last few years, I started to change a bit. Um, I still know about myself that I can't make a portrait with eyes. So I have a few paintings that there is evolution, and I'm getting closer to making the eyes also. Not there yet. I also observed in the last few years that I'm a bit more open to use more color and watery color, and to find it a bit more feminine, the way I show my creativity, which in the past was not there. But I'm just observing how I grow with it. So it's a process of growth, but not extremely intentional, not with a brief, not coming from a clear direction.
You told a little bit about that you are good in criticizing others' paintings. So I'm curious, are you your own hardest critic?
How do you know?
Guess, I guess.
Yes, of course. But I will always think that I'm not. So for sure there is someone else that does that for me even more. So I should be even uh, more harsh with myself. Yeah, for sure. But it's in many people, I think, and I'm still fine with it.
It
I'm
sounds
becoming better.
it sounds like you are a recovering critic. So you are like getting better and better with every new year of your life, and the more. And also, I feel like you are like love reflecting on yourself and like seeing like what's going on. And I'm curious if it's true for sure. What is how's your reflection process looks like?
Oh, I'm a very active in observing myself. So I do, like, while it can be about being very critic with myself, it's also about observing full spectrum, like not just being the only the critical side. So this is a practice that I have for many years, as I said. In my 20s, together with a few other friends, we were building a new educational model. And at the base of that educational model was this idea of self-reflection, of self-directed learning, knowing how you learn, who you are, uh, how you do things, to learn that the full spectrum of ways of learning. Reflection is also helping in that direction. So I do that quite often, and I try as much as possible to be objective, as objective I can be, knowing that there is something that it's still subjective, but I try to do that, to stay at the core of my values and all that. So this was a continuous practice. So we were practicing as a team when we were developing the program, and then it stayed with each of us in different shapes. In time, also, I went through a lot of programs for growth. So I was bringing this side of self-reflection. For some years, I'm also in therapy. I have a coach also. So different people who support my growth. And with that also comes the support that I give to myself, the space and that I give to my own reflection, which can be structured from time to time. So I do have a journal, and I try to go on my journal and to add ideas and things that I have, or dreams that I have, or whatever is there, to add it in my journal. Uh, I like to understand as much as possible from things that happen, good or bad, or things that in reality I don't think is that fast the good or the bad. I think it's when you are in the process of something and you still don't know why that thing happens to you, and you are still there, and then you don't know and you don't know, and then it just happens that, oh, so these dots were supposed to be connected. What a beautiful thing to see and to observe. And from time to time you get the chance, like if you make it too mechanical, I think I had some years ago, I don't remember, but I had for a bit, like, yeah, what can still happen, what, like, this self-reflection became too much of a normality. But then when you also let things happen, the dots to connect in the way you didn't expect, to also be in awe and appreciation that, dude, there is still so much to understand and experience and connect in a beautiful story further. So I'm still there, and I find it fascinating that while I have an impression that I know about all the dots in my life right now, I also don't know, and they might connect in a even bigger way. So it's a mix of practice and not practice, space and flow, and everything in between, with support, and with also real support, as I said, therapy, coach, programs.
And you told that you are doing this journaling practice. So are you revisiting from time to time what you wrote, let's say 6 months ago or a year ago?
Yeah, but not in a very structured way, but just for the sake of curiosity. I can say something that, but it happened again many years ago. So many years ago, I don't know, 10, 12, something like that. I was tracking my time. So I was having a very simple app in my phone with everything, like the time that I spend on the road, the time when I sleep, the time when I spend with my friends, with my partner, with my cooking, with learning, work, everything. Everything was detailed. And then everything went into an Excel. And at the end of the year, I was able to check that data, a lot of data about my existence. And then with that data, I was starting to say, oh, so this percentage of my life went in that direction, in that direction. So then I started to imagine, okay, how much I really want, like to allocate percentages. And I did that for maybe 3-4 years, I think. I hope not more. It might be that more. I don't. And when I almost got to what I added there as percentages, and it looked like, oh my God, it's on green, my reaction and my feeling was not much. I was like, so what did you do? Like, what's this? And then my entire enthusiasm for the app disappeared. and there was no more tracking and anything. And like I in the last few years, I also tried with more gadgets. Now I wear nothing. So I was into daytime steps, all that. Like it's valuable, it's insightful. But then, and especially the ones that require you to have them during your sleep and all that,
Mm.
I was not that much into to them, and I might be again. So I will still try them from time to time. But right now, I'm not in that pace at all because I feel like we go so far into technology. It's so close to us that we also need to keep this idea of self and be in tune with yourself and still try to keep the things that would signal you as closer as possible. So, yeah, I don't remember the question.
Some long time ago, I had also tracking practice. So I decided to track my income and expenses, trying to see like where like it go for food or for like restaurant, for clothes, for stuff, like for apartment, etc. And I wanted to be like very mindful to get to know everything. And then I got depressed because I was like, I spend so much here, I spend so much here, whatever. So I stopped tracking, and only one thing that I knew that I have to make more money. Okay, so it's like the main thing that I need to focus on. Whatever, I don't care about expenses, etc. I have to make more money. So I'm curious. After tracking your life, your time for such a long period, what was your main finding?
It wasn't much. That's what I'm saying. So it was like this is not the way how life should be tracked. Like that was the main thing. Maybe it came also with the process that I became quite in tune with what I had in mind for myself and the proportions, let's say. But while I was doing that, maybe I was also growing. And in my growth, I realized that there is a different kind of sync that I need with myself. And that's where I do the check, I get into the flow, and I go for it. So I got this confidence also. From the practices from back then, this is the only practice that I still have, the part where I set a word for the year. And from that word, I can make it about anything. Like the word can sound as cheesy as possible or as nothing as possible. I can make it for work, for life, for family, for relationship, for everything. So that's the only practice that I still have with me from those times when like the statistics was there, interesting, but not anymore. Like I moved on. I moved on from that.
I have this question from one of the previous guests. If we sat down in 10 years and had the same conversation with you, and your life turned out to be everything that you wanted it to be, where would you be? What would you be doing? And who is around you?
Mm, like I don't get that attached to context and clarity of context, to be honest. Like the key thing that I hope will be with me is this freedom of thought and being aligned with myself and to go with the flow. Like I was not expecting to be here like 10 years ago. I was not expecting this or and I don't and I also don't go for very having very clear objectives and just to get like my view of a good life is not just to get what you define for yourself, is how you get. And now is no longer about articulating that end value, let's say, or end milestone, let's say. Is more like really focusing on how is life in the process, like how, because if that requires too much sacrifice in the sense of real sacrifice, like not discipline, not responsibility. Those are good things to have. If it requires too much from like just 2 more months, let's just that's not success for me. Like if I stop from, let's say I have a project that requires me to sell a lot in my village to build something. So that requires a lot of money, it requires availability and all that. So if in that process it's imposed and it's the best way for me not to travel, I don't think that's the way. Like I would still want the quality of life comes with ensuring good quality of life while also obtaining what you want to obtain. But I still have an answer to your questions, and it's related to things that I already taught. So I have a very beautiful friend of mine. She's a photographer, and she has a very, very nice project. I said she can do her entire life just that project, and it would be awesome for the world to see it. So what she does as a photographer, she invites people uh, in her studio for a conversation and and photo shooting on three questions. It's called all. So she's asking you, afraid, lost, love, something like that. So she's asking, what are you afraid of? If there is something that you feel you lost, and what do you love?
Mm.
And while people answer, she's capturing like the photo and also the word or the meaning of that. So that helped me in a way, and that helped me decide on my life and decide also on the answer for your question. So the first time when she asked me, that was 8 years ago, I think, when she asked me this. When I said what I lost, I said I lost the chance to be a rebellious kid, to
Mm.
be a rebel. Uh, so, and that stayed with me, like as an answer, as an idea that out of everything that I was there. So this is what I took. So in my recent years, when I started to think, how do I want to spend life? How do I experience life? What do I want from myself? All that. I also thought about my moment in this photo shooting, and I said, if in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, when the question comes and I respond again, I lost the chance to be a rebellious adult, that's not okay. So as a kid, you can put that on the family context, who you were able to know about yourself. But as an adult, that's on you, fully on you. So I'm not allowed to feel that I'm losing that either. So in 10 years, for sure, I will not be an adult who lost the chance to be a rebellious adult.
Got it. Got it. You know, Karina, I wish to have the sky's the limit talk conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions. A day with no food or a day with great food?
So I need to choose what?
One, just one.
Like what? Why would I choose no food? I made that choice. I was last year in a retreat, but great food all the time.
Big trip or little trip?
Big trip. If
What
it's a
are
choice, why not?
what are your favorite color and song?
Oh, color. I think it's purple, but I don't know why. Uh, a song. Uh, looks like I don't have one.
What's your favorite song of the moment?
Of the moment. Well, I do have one, but it's a Romanian song. So, like a long-lasting song. It's called "Infinite" by Monojax. Infinite comes from infinity, and
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
smart song. As the rhythm, it's quite interesting. So, yeah.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
To be full heart, although I don't know what I really want to say with that, but this is how I feel to say now.
Who do you learn from? Name just one person.
Uh, I'd say Roxana Mocanu. She was a mentor for me for many years.
Name two people whom I should definitely reach out to and have this conversation with.
Yes, Andreea Tomescu and Eliza Vrânceanu.
Got it. Ask it forward. It's like pay it forward, but with questions. So ask a question a future guest will have to answer.
I would make it about community, to be honest. Like, what kind of community would they need for themselves? Because I guess many people from community will be here in your podcast.
Sure, sure. Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
Many, so none.
It's so hard to choose. I got it. So
Yeah,
there are so I still have many questions, and as I've told you, I wish to have the sky as the limit, but time is the limit. So
yeah.
anyway, Karina, thank you very much for giving me just a little bit of insider information about your personal life journey, about your dragons you have, about choice with no choice about the food, and yeah, I believe that you are doing great in being a rebellion adult. And I hope then, who knows, maybe in 10 years we'll have this conversation and you'll tell like, yeah, I'm pretty rebellion adult. I'm still doing great in that way. So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you so much. It was insightful for me also, so I really enjoyed it.
And yeah, see you in the community world.